Hello and welcome to iMoot 15. For this session we have Christophe Debarge presenting from the beautiful city of Brussels in Belgium. Christophe works for a company organising courses for European institutions and uses Moodle as a hub for assessment and learning. Thank you for your time today, Christophe, and thanks to everybody attending. Hi, Christophe. We can't actually hear you, so I'll unmute your mic. Oh, there we go.
Is it good now?
Yeah, that's good.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries. I will. I'll stop this recording and I'll start it again, just so we have a nice clean recording.
Yeah, perfect. Hello, everybody. Just a few words before starting why I choose that topic for the presentation. Mainly because we've got about 50 trainers using Moodle here in Brussels for the courses of the European Commission, and they are teaching mainly languages. Of course, for the English trainers, it's quite easy to find resources and to be creative. They've got a ton of resources to get inspiration. But when it comes to Estonian or Maltese, it's a bit more a challenge, especially when the trainer is not really Moodle friendly, I would say, and was more kind of old school trainer who didn't really want to use it. So I had to be creative and find ways to provide resources for our trainer. And I was thinking that blogs could be used also as a resource more than an admin, because a lot of time the blogs are used as a kind of administration purpose, but I think they are really, really good to share resources, learning resources. So basically, I wanted my trainers to have like tools to create some resources, but that don't take too much time. And also, I wanted for the learners to arrive in a page where they can find stuff, where there's not just one activity, one quiz, and nothing around, because most of the time you need to spend a bit of time before starting your course. So it's always good to give them some peanuts to wait for the main dish. So that's the idea also behind that presentation. And I will use 5 simple use of block. But that could really, in a few clicks, make the difference and bring your course to another dimension. Let's, so yeah, sum up and give you ideas to enhance your learner experience will be the main objective of the presentation. I've made some small tutorials to show you how to reproduce the few examples I will show you. And of course, we will start a small discussion at the end of this presentation just to see how we can, with this starting point, make it even better and have like ideas that work in different fields. I am using examples in the language training field, but also in some of science or even a cultural awareness training. But I count on you to provide other examples too. Before starting, I think it's important to have a few words about how to use blocks. I don't know how familiar you are with installing new blocks, new plugins in your platform. So I will sum up the main things to think about. And of course, according to your level, you will either talk to your IT department or take that as just a reminder. And the 5 blocks I will present today will be the random glossary article, the remote RSS podcast, the YouTube, and Twitter integration. And then after we'll talk about the forum, how we can use it after the presentation. Before starting, I think it's really important to know a few things about blocks when you need to install them on your platform. It can be really a nightmare if you didn't take precautions before installing it or asking to install it. So there are a couple of questions to ask before starting using any block that are really important and that will prevent any troubles in your platform. First, be sure that your block is fully tested in various environments. Be aware that your delegates your students will sometimes use Internet Explorer 6 or 7, as it is in Brussels. We still have some people using Internet Explorer 6. So when it's one student, that might be fine, but when you've got a group of 10 people who use the same configuration, if you bring a block that doesn't work in that environment, it's quite a pity. You won't be able to use it. So be sure to test it, I would say, minimum in Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, but also in the mobile version, if you're using any mobile version of your theme. Sometimes it's not just a question of having the block to work, but sometimes just the display. The display might be a bit strange, so you may not want to use this kind of blocks. How to know the issues with the different environment? I would say count on the forums. A lot of time in the forums you find the bugs that happen with some Internet Explorer versions. So I think the forum is first things to look at. Of course, check if there is still some support available. If you've got, I would say, entries in the forum that are from 2010, it's not really a good sign that your block is still supported. Maybe with the new versions, you will have troubles getting information. And also check your available updates and future plan for next updates. For example, if you're using Moodle 2.7 and you know that the plugin or the block won't be updated for 2009 and you know you will move, I think it's not worth spending time trying to use that block if you know that in a few months it will be outdated. Also, check the different languages available. Usually you would have English available and maybe 1 or 2 other languages, but as you can imagine, here in Brussels we need to have a lot of interface available. The minimum is 3, French, English and German. So most of the time I have to translate some French language pack for some blocks. English, we find them most of the time, and in German, if we're lucky, we've got it. And once the block is installed, have a look at the permissions, because most of the time blocks offer some flexibility in terms of permissions, and you can bring that to your own advantage and have even a more interesting experience for your users. So I hope these small reminders rings a bell, and this is something you're already doing. If not, this is the strict minimum. Of course, we could add much more, but maybe the best thing to do is to have like a local version of Moodle and have your live version of Moodle. Because just to give you an example, we installed a plugin a few months ago, and it blocked everything. All quiz were blocked because it wasn't really one that we carefully looked at, and it was a mistake. And for 2 days, we had to check all the courses that always were fixed. So I would like to avoid that kind of situation for you. Let's start with the first block I would like to present. It's the random glossary article. This block is, of course, works in pair with the glossary, and you need to have a glossary first. And I think glossary is really really nice feature of Moodle because it's really flexible and we can use it in different configuration. Also, to create a glossary offline, it's really easy, and you can import a whole glossary in a few clicks. I will show you in the next window how to do that. And it's quite good when you want to work on some really tailored glossary. And with the block random article from Glossary, really you can bring content to your student, and every time they connect, they will have a new entry appearing. And of course, you can link that with a quiz. And really, when you arrive in your page, every time you have a new entry, and it's quite a nice feature for the students. We've got really good feedback from that. We're using it for English. I gave you 2 examples here with a business idiom of the day. So every time they connect, they've got a new idiom and some explanation. Also a proverb of the day in another context. So far, we use them, these 2, only for providing our learners with kind of flashcards. But they can, of course, access the whole glossary in a click, and they can comment as you could do with any glossary. But I think we can go further than that. And in the classroom, we've been using it in really different kind of context. Could be just the quote of the day. Let's say you're doing a course in Estonian. As I say, it would be my main example, sorry. But it's quite difficult for learners in Brussels to know about Estonian culture, Estonian people. So they've built a small quote of the day about Estonia. So it was a good way for learners to know a bit more about this tiny country in Europe, but with a lot of things to say. And it's also bring a kind of game for the learner. Every time they connect, they got a new quote. So in the classroom, or during the face-to-face, the trainer always come back to that quote of the day. It could be also, as you will see in the iMoot course, I've set up a tip of the day. Just took the 5 blocks questions I mentioned before and transform them at the tip of the day. It's quite good for to give piece of advice for your learner. They could be just learning to learn advices, or even more IT, or any kind of information you think is useful to share. I think for universities, sometimes it's quite, or schools, it's important to have a kind of admin rules reminder. For example, if you don't sign up for this session before next week, it will be too late. So it's a good way to have a clear and transparent communication with your students to avoid complaints, or simply to inform them about activities available in the university. So really, it's quite easy to set up. Just have an Excel with all your admin rules reminder, and they will show every time they connect. Of course, word of the day could be, it makes sense in language, but it could be in any field, really. It will strengthen vocabulary and prepare for exam, for example, as a kind of refresh. Could be in science, history, IT, you could put anything in it, but really it make a difference for your learners. Every time they connect, they've got a new concept. I've got also an example that's been used in history with main historical characters. So they were showed up every 5 minutes, they changed, and during the sessions, the trainer was asking some questions to go further. Could be science, and of course, figure of speech, poets, literary themes. There are many, many ways to use it. And maybe it will be one of the topic of the forum, how you would see that kind of use of the random glossary use. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bonus and or badges, even if you want, could be a quite good way to use quotes of the day. And also for the trainers, it's a good way when they do a class to bring back the students into Moodle. Of course, I'm talking about a more blended approach when you've got some face-to-face and online, but I really think it will be exactly the same if you're just doing the online. When you interact with your students, you can ask them some questions. Have you seen that quote yet? No, or it will come next time. Which one have you seen? And start discussions. I will put that. I won't go into too much detail during the presentation. I will put a PDF in the course for you to see how to proceed, but there are mainly two steps. One is outside Moodle and one is within Moodle. Outside Moodle is just creating an Excel file. I gave you a template in the course, and so you can use mine and just copy and paste your ideas and your concept. You've got 4 columns. Of course, the concept, the definition, they are the only 2 mandatory, and of course you could add category and keywords if you want. Once you've done your Excel file, I added a converter to convert into XML. It's quite easy. It's really nice online converter, but you can have a local version. Again, it's available in the course if you want to use it. You just copy and paste, save as a XML, and then you just need to import into your glossary. And really in 5 minutes, you've got your glossary set up. Because if you need to do entry by entry in Moodle, it's really long process. Once you've imported your glossary, then you need to add a block random glossary article and just configure it as you wish. Basically, the configuration is quite easy. You put a title, you choose which glossary you're talking about, and then you say how many times the article change. Could be 1 time at every connection, every 5 minutes, it's up to you to choose. You could allow to give comments or to add even more entries as in a glossary. So really it's up to you to configure it according to what you want to do with them. So now you're ready to use. I've done one yesterday. It takes really 5 minutes. The longest piece is to create the Excel file, of course, with all the concept and definitions, but most of the time you've got that information around. I will go quite quickly on that, and you will find the tutorial available in the course later on. And of course, if you've got issues, the forum will be there for me to give you a hand maybe with that. The next block I would like to talk about is remote RSS. RSS is really great feature to exchange IDs or any activities available online. Basically, RSS is for content providers from newspaper, but also to web page providing activities. Is for a way for them to update users with their new feeds every day, every hour, every time they've got something new. So many people want to share their ideas, their work, and trainer, usually what we want is just to transmit ideas or activities for a student so they can evaluate the information, analyze, share, critique, develop according to what kind of feed you are. And I think the remote RSS block, it's a good way to share news with your student in your domain. If you look really well at your RSS feed in your domain, then you don't really need to look after resources every week, because you know that newspaper every week they got one small article about that topic, and it's always good. For example, in science, the new development in science in your field. So there is no harm providing this article to your students all the time. Or it could be even just language learning activities. For example, British Council has really, really good RSS feed, and it's a good way to transmit that activities to your learners. Let's have a look at one or two use in the classroom. The first step really is for language learning. It's quite good to share activities with your students. If you do, for example, an English course and you want to provide them with some English at work activities, RSS feed can do that for you. And every time you connect, you will have a new activity available for your students. Of course, there are more. There is no way to recommend one activity. You just provide a box full of all the activities. Usually they've got one a week or these kind of things, but it's a good way for self-study. If you want your students to do the extra mile, at least they don't need to go online and say, oh, I want to work on phrasal verbs in English and type on Google and I've got 10 or 20 pages. Here you find one good activity for learning English. It's British Council, it's quite good, so you provide it to your students and then you know that they won't waste their time. Of course, it could be sharing articles in your learning field. You can ask your students to read every week one field and comment one article in a forum, for example. It could be part of a project created. And also, it's a good way for your students to look at which article they would like to read, but within a frame. Because if you ask your students tomorrow to go online, find a science article, you don't know where they will go. you don't know what kind of article, maybe they're too complex, maybe they're too long, maybe you don't agree really with the line of the newspaper. So at least you can direct your students to feeds that really you checked before, they are good quality, they follow your lines, so you have less risk to let your students going anywhere. Of course, science article, I think it's quite good way to share these kind of things. There is one blog which is called RSS Plus blog. It's same concept, but it's more, I think, useful for podcasts. Many radios, organizations, or institutions have their own podcasts. They would like to share them with us. The good thing with RSS Plus is that you've got the image associated to the each feed, and also you can directly listen online to the podcast. So it's the same blog to provide to students with hours and hours of listening. You don't need every week to upload an MP3. It's streamed, so you can listen to it any time. And again, you can filter what kind of podcast you want to provide. They could be from radio, they could be from learning institutions, they could be from one trainer, they could be for anyone. It's a good way, I think, to flip the classroom. So you use the podcast as a source to ram up for class discussion. So you ask your students to listen to a podcast and then, or with the podcast even, you listen to the podcast before coming to class, and then in the class then you can have a discussion. You can ask your student to prepare key vocabulary, concept, pro and cons. There are many, many ways to flip the classroom, and it's a good, podcast is quite a good way to share this kind of listening resources with your students. Again, I will talk in the forum maybe about kind of podcast you would like to share. Maybe you know some in your field and you want to exchange with other science trainer or history or English or whatever field you are in. Again, a small tutorial, it will be available online after how to proceed. It's straightforward. It really takes less than 5 minutes. First, you need to search online for your fields. You can go on Google, you type RSS Science, and we have hundreds of feeds available. Or maybe you could go, we've done that for a French course. We go to a national information radio, and they've got small podcast of 1 minute about different topics. And we just select the one that fits more the classroom, the level, the themes they're working on. You just copy the link. Usually you've got the link attached to the small RSS icon. You see the small orange block. Just copy it. You go in Moodle, you add a block remote RSS or remote RSS Plus. You add your feed, and that's it. You're ready to go. If you look at the course we've got for iMoot, I've added some example for RSS in science and BBC Learning English. So you will be able to see concrete examples online. Now I'd like to go for social media and Twitter. As you can see, Vinny is really active on Twitter, and iMoot 2015 too. And I think it's really, really a good way, Twitter, to work in the classroom. Many people want to share their ideas again, and trainer, they want their students to see other ideas, to think by themselves. That's good. It's a good tool to share ideas, and but it could be much more for trainers. It could be really, really a good tool to do homework and to create a classroom community. I've added a link to research made in the States, quite useful about Twitter and the use in the university. Feel free to have a look at it. It's quite straightforward, but I think gives a lot of interesting information, and also it shows you more like concrete facts, maybe to show you that Twitter can be really a nice tool to use in the classroom. I've made a few examples about how it could be used. I think the first thing is to access information. You cannot always ask your students to have a Twitter account, and for many reasons. Maybe they don't have internet, maybe you don't want them to access Twitter because they're still young, you don't want them to use that, but you want to share information with them. So if you build your own account and just provide a block Twitter with only one feed follow, you will see in the course I've added one. You will provide access to Twitter to your students without needing even a Twitter account. Every time they connect, they will see the tweet you follow. So that's quite useful, I think, especially in configurations where really you cannot ask your students to have their own Twitter account. It could be a good tool also to have collaborative tasks. So here you need a class account. So you create like my class account, and each student needs an account. So you could use Twitter to build creative homework. Basically, you start a discussion on Twitter and you ask them to answer. So it could be used in creative writing fields, or just like a kind of answering. You ask a question. It could be even a small quiz, and they've got 1 day to answer as a tweet. Could be also to comment command reading. Let's say in your course you've got 5 books to read, and you want to encourage your students to read the books, which is not always easy. Maybe if each student put a comment on the book they're reading now, it will be more, there will be more incentive in reading that book. So you can get your students to do their reading list much more easily. I think that's really good way to motivate students. Most of the time they've got Twitter, and they quite liked of sharing their ideas with their friends. So it's a good way to do that. If you've got a class with more than 50 people, for example, it's not always easy to have interactions between the students. So having a Twitter account for the class and each student their own account, they could quite easily exchange about the classroom session they just followed, or about issues they have in the class. It's also a good way to reduce stress. We know that a lot of times students, they're quite shy, they don't want to participate in a course, especially if it's a big course, or if it's online, they're scared to share their ideas. So they used to share the life in Twitter every day. So if you use Twitter in the classroom, I'm pretty sure they will have less stress than just opening a forum page or these kind of things. Or it could be just used as a kind of reminder to spread the word about the course activities. There are many more things that we can do with Twitter, and exactly, Andrew. It allows the discussion to go beyond Moodle, and if you've got a Moodle mobile version, it's quite good. And I really think, as you say, and it's teenager friendly, especially the first access. You don't need your students to have an account, and you can just have your class account, and they can access it only via the Moodle blog. It's not that complex to set up a Moodle integration. Again, I will have that tutorial available after. Of course, you need a Twitter account, at least you don't need to have your personal one, but you can create one for your classroom, or even for your field, if you want to share tweets between your classroom. So once you create your Twitter account, just log in, and there is a small tab which is called App, and you just need to add the feed you want to follow. So if in your classroom you just want to follow Vinny, that you just add Vinny Stoker, and you will see only his feeds. Where Twitter is out. If not on WhatsApp, then it doesn't exist. Or we can think about WhatsApp integration too. So you just add a block, HTML, and you pass your Twitter app in the HTML window, and that's done. Yeah, let's hope they don't switch too quickly. But we can be quick to adapt to the new tool. I'm sure there are many other things like Twitter to integrate. I'm not that keen on integrating Facebook, because Facebook is really linked to the person, whereas Twitter could be to one field, unless you're doing a page. But I have to say I'm not that a great Facebook fan. That's why I didn't add it here. But yeah, Facebook, if you're good with it, could be an option too. On my side, I'm a bit not that keen on Facebook. That's why I want to focus on Twitter. And also, it's good to have only 140 characters, because if we want to do homework, it brings some kind of a synthesis skill for your students too. I think time is running. Let's go to the next block. YouTube, it's a great tool. Again, you need to find a good feed, but it's good. You know, on Moodle usually we don't have a lot of videos available, and the administrator always say, oh, it's too heavy, we cannot have that many videos, we don't have the right to host it, and you know, all these kind of discussions you have always with your administrator of the platform. So you integrate the embedded YouTube. It's a great way to add small videos, and it's really, really easy. If you just use the HTML block, it will give you course homepage more dynamism. It will, of course, adding the Pinterest widgets also. It's quite good. Huh? We will follow that discussion in the forum. Don't worry. So, if you want to provide a kind of video library to your students, adding a block in HTML block with a YouTube playlist, it's quite good. It's easy to do. And it's a good way to provide your students with some video. It's really straightforward to do. You need to find on YouTube the video playlist you want to share. You click on embed. You have to change the size. It depends on the theme you're using, but usually the block, if you want the video to fit in the screen, it's 300 by 200. You just copy the HTML code, add a block, paste your YouTube code, and that's it. You can access the videos. You can, in one click, have the full screen, and it's quite straightforward. A good idea, Sam. If you could do that, I'd be happy. That's it for the main box. I think now the good thing is to start to see how we could go further and how we could maybe have a look at the. Let me share my screen to show you. What is this? Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. Java activate. Sorry, need to activate Java. Okay, I don't know. Can you see my screen now? Will someone answer? No. Okay. Let me try one more time. Otherwise, let me try another time. What is it? Okay. Sorry, guys, I was kicked out of the meeting. I think I clicked on the wrong part. So, thank you for all the discussions you made. I would like to talk with you in the. Of course, I'm on Twitter. Firewall, it's really. Thank you, everyone. What I suggest is I would start a few discussions in the forum to follow on these discussions, and I will create a few discussions to each of the topics we mentioned. Really feel free to share ideas in different fields, especially I can see Elena, you work in the health industry, and I give a few examples more about language or science, but could be applied to any field. Thank you very much for participation, and we'll meet in the forum, I hope, really soon. And connect to the course, please, and use the tutorials I've put. I'll put more material quite soon. Have a good day, everyone, and I hope to meet you in other courses in the iMoot soon. Bye.
Thank you, Christophe. This is Vinny again from the iMoot team. I'd just like to thank you again for your time today. Fantastic presentation. That was really, really, really cool. Loads of useful tips for everybody, and I'm sure there'll be lots more conversation going on in the forums and on Twitter from this presentation. So thanks once again, and thank you everybody else for attending the session. The next session we've got coming up is Martin de Guillemis talking about plans for Moodle over the next year or so, our keynote session. So I look forward to seeing lots of you in that one.
Thank you very much, Vinny. Bye. Have a good day, everyone.